It's an odd thing to be known for what other people did. Other people put me in prison and other people got me out, but I'm known nonetheless. 25 years in the penitentiary is a long time, and it changes some people, but it's been helpful because I like to say that I am you. You may hear sometimes about what it's like on the inside, or either of the penitentiary or just be inside the criminal justice system by an ex-con. Unfortunately, a lot of my fellow exonerees sometimes have criminal records, and so people here in the free world don't always embrace them because, you know, they're criminals, and so they're on the other side of the fence, and you won't take everything they say as gospel, or at least to be weighty. But with the exception of this one run-in with the law, I had no criminal record. No felonies, no misdemeanors, just a traffic ticket or two. It's been a weird, to say the least, 3 years. Been out about 3.5. I found myself on TV from 60 Minutes on down to local news, radio, BBC, NPR, little bitty college radio stations. Even newspapers, the dying phase of journalism, New York Times, on down the line. I've even been in the Shanghai Times, and I have no reason why. But, and it is also very odd. I never had a public life. I never was a politician or a public figure. But now I find myself on Netflix. I have a book out, and it's odd to say the very least. But I used to not be odd at all, but I'm odd now. I used to be what I've learned to call the kind of the midpoint of the American demographic. Back when this all started, I was married, and the wife and I had a child, and we were thinking of another. We both had careers, real busy, real full work weeks. Had a mortgage. We were in our second home. It's a really nice neighborhood. Things were looking up. But everything changed, as John mentioned, in August of '86, when somebody came in my house and beat my wife to death in our bed. And unless you've been to a crime scene or talk to someone who has, it's not like TV. It's not like the goriest movie you've ever seen. It's gruesome. Blood on the walls and brain matter. And after a few hours, blood's not red. The stains are kind of a purpley brown. But it didn't take long after that August day to be arrested. And the sheriff showed up on my doorstep about 6 weeks later and knocked on the door and told me he was there to arrest me. I had my son on my hip. I was holding him. He was about 3.5, and they had to physically pull him from my arms. He's crying, he wants me, and I got to try to put a good face on it. But it didn't work because I always believed that he remembered the last time the police had been to our house, and it had been a really bad day, and they were back. Short time later, February. Arrested in September, trial in February, guilty verdict, life sentence, and bam, it happens real quick. It's a long time ago, though. All of this happened in '86 and '87. See, a few of you weren't even alive then, or you were very young. For those of us with a few more years on us, think back to Ronald Reagan was in the White House. USSR was still the evil empire, and I had personally never been in a Walmart or a Starbucks. There was no internet to speak of, and cell phones were some engineer's fantasy. I was found guilty and I went to prison, but it wasn't because I had court-appointed lawyers or incompetent lawyers. I had really good ones. I spent every dime I had to pay for these guys, and then my parents spent almost everything they had for them too. But they smelled a rat, and there was that whole thing where John alluded to this problem we have with Brady. My lawyer smelled a rat, but there was no mechanism for them to get at that. They knew there was something there, but from the court records and everything they were shown, there was no there. So I went to prison. You lose a lot when you go to prison. I lost my son. He was the most important thing to me, but you lose your freedom to... freedom is just thrown around like liberty, but you don't get it out here. To be able to walk from one room to the other, to sit next to that person or not sit next to them. It changes you. It's kind of like, I'll tell you what, when I got arrested, that first time you sit in the backseat of a police car with handcuffs on, you never see the world the same way. After that, everything looks different. You lose your reputation too. I said I wasn't a public figure. You all have reputations. I had a reputation. You may not be on the news every night or drawing large crowds whenever you go someplace, but people who live on your street or your next door neighbors, the people at work, the way you act, you have a reputation. And when everybody on TV and the radio and the newspapers, everybody's saying bad things about you, most people believe that where there's smoke, there's fire. And until something really bad happens to you, you've no idea who will turn on you. Co-workers and friends, and even some family members will just distance themselves from your taint. People ask me about prison because it's something of a pop media or a pop culture media thing. There's this weird sort of morbid curiosity about prison because it is such a bizarre subculture. When you go, it seems very abrupt. It's just bam, real quick. And I always have to talk about the violence, but violence inside isn't like violence here. If you go to dinner tonight, later this evening, and a fist fight breaks out at the next table, I'm guessing tomorrow at lunch you'll probably talk about it, and the next night, and the next day. But it's not like that. It's something of a... Violence inside is almost a supply and demand sort of thing. Because there's more of it, it doesn't quite hold the cachet or the impact that it does out here. But it does mean something. But it just doesn't mean the same thing you think it means. Prison, more than anything though, violence aside, and it's not a relentlessly violent environment. There are long, long bouts of monotony and boredom and repetition. It's the movie Groundhog Day from hell. You know what's going to happen all the time. And I think that repetition is part of what makes it somewhat soul-killing. It may not be that way by design, but think about it this way. My name's Michael Morton, and there could be, just by theory, there could be another Michael Morton go to prison. I mean, it's just Michael's not that odd of a name. But there never has been, and there never will be another 44, 53, 94. That's me. It was. And when you're reduced to a number, it changes you. in ways that you don't always see at first. Every interaction I had with the authorities inside, of course they would ask me my name, but then they had to have my ID number. Without that ID number, nothing else was going to happen. They weren't going to see me, they weren't going to talk to me. I had to produce it, either verbally or show my ID. It's the worst kind of reduction. It's not human, and we pride ourselves on the way we interact with people. Prison was hard, yeah. But you know what? I don't care if you're the member of a very exclusive country club and you drive a fantastic Ferrari and you have a wonderful spouse. And I don't care if you live in the crappiest ghetto around with a crackhead for a partner and your neighbors steal your stuff and beat you up from time to time. No matter what end of the scale you live on, you get used to it. It's the human attribute we have. I got used to it by hardening my heart. It was my survival technique. It's the way I survived. I became a tough guy. That doesn't mean just the way I behaved, but it was also the way I started to think. You don't back down, and you fight, and you don't let things bother you. What I held on to at that time was my son. For those of you who have not had any children, I remember before I had a child, I was the center of my universe. Everything was about me. How's it going to affect me? But when I had a child, it was as if something chemical happened within me. And my focus changed. Everything was about him. And my son became my reason to live. I wanted to get out. I wanted to reconnect with him and prove to him that I was not that murderous perv, that I didn't kill his mother, that I loved him, and that I wasn't the monster. And it's a good thing. Parent-child relationship is good. But I'm not perfect. I was in a long time, and I spent a lot of years plotting revenge for the people that I felt were responsible for my incarceration. I'd lost my freedom, my son, my reputation, all my worldly assets, and there were some people I felt were responsible. I watched the elected county sheriff lie on the stand, so I was going to get back at him. The DA, the jury foreman, medical examiner, a neighbor I'd had that testified against me. And I spent years and years how I was planning, plotting, conniving ways to kill him when I got out. I had different motives. Excuse me. It was all one big nasty motive, but different MOs for sure. Different days of the week. Plausible alibis. I was going to put some heads on some sticks, and I thought I could do it. It was weird. I got used to that too. I got used to penitentiary. I got used to this idea that while I wasn't a murderer, I'd been convicted of being a murderer. I was going to be a murderer. While all of this stuff was going on inside of me, I had an attorney at trial who had a friend, and his friend was Barry Sheck. And my attorney, named Phil Allison, they were buddies, so he gives my file to Barry and asks if he would, take on my case. And he said he would, of course. Barry's a good guy. But just because we were friends, I didn't get special treatment. My file went in the bottom of the stack. And the Stack of Innocence Project is pretty tall. Took a while. I had to wait. They had to eliminate all sorts of things, and I had to wait my turn in line. While I was doing that, one of the very bizarre attributes of penitentiary life is spending countless nights laying in your bunk staring at the ceiling and conducting personal inventories. You will remember every harsh word you've ever said, every act you wish you hadn't performed, and you'll review them and review them and review them. One of the things that I started seeing is that my tough guy image of myself was reflected a little bit in what had not broken me. I was looking back at my life and all the things that hadn't done me in or hadn't left me helpless. My son was the center of my world, but he'd been born with a congenital heart defect. And he had had surgery just prior to my wife's murder. He was fine, but none of that really did me in. It didn't leave me without any mooring. My wife's murder, of course, was horrible. All the media attacks, the trial, the guilty verdict, life sentence, that hadn't done me in. Even all those failed appeals, because I went all through the appellate system. All my grandparents died while I was inside. I didn't get to attend any of their funerals, and that didn't break me either. Even the years and years and years of penal life didn't do it. When my son got in his early teens, he suspended our visits. And that really hurt. But it didn't break me. And I clung onto that tough image, that toughness, because it kept me going. I became a convict. I became the guy inside. I knew what to expect. I knew what to do. I knew what not to do. Prison doesn't scare me. It was 2001. I got a letter. And I got the news that my son was having his name legally changed and he was being adopted by people raising him. I don't know if it was the cumulative effect of all the crap that had happened or if it was just the worst thing that had ever come down the pike. That's what broke me. I was stunned. I didn't know where to go or what to do, what to say. And in a very, very uncharacteristic moment, I cried out to God, help me. Hey, I got nothing here. Show me something. You there? Something. I got a big, big nothing. Just quiet. No response. And in all candor, and it's kind of what I expected. Look what's been going on in my life. A short while later, maybe 2 weeks, I was in my bunk, average day. My cell partner was on the bottom bunk, he was asleep. End of the day, real normal day. I'd had thousands of them like it already. And everything pointed me having thousands more. And I decided to kill the light, put on my radio headphones, go up and down the dial, call it a night. It's part of my routine. And I picked up a station out of Houston, a classical station. And in a moment that I consider comically apropos now, I heard some harp music. And listened to it for a moment, but then in just an instant, just like that, I found myself bathed in golden light. I couldn't see anything but this golden light. I heard this roaring in my ears. I felt like I was floating over my bunk. I don't know what it looked like. I couldn't see anything but that light. But I was ecstatic. I was happy. I was very, very calm. I was bouncing in and out of my skin. Everything sounds contradictory. I apologize, but all I have is words to describe what happened. But they don't measure up. They're impotent. They don't work. But help me here, because words are all I have. And I knew, without a doubt, I did not have to be told. I didn't ask for an explanation. I knew this was the presence of God. And more than all of that, I sensed love aimed right at me. Not at humanity, just at me. And it was fantastic. It was the most amazing thing that ever happened to me in my life. And then I heard my alarm clock going off. And I instinctively turned it off and sat up in bed and like, whoa. I knew what it was, but I didn't know why. And why is the most important thing you can ask on almost anything. I have no psychiatric history. I didn't eat anything weird. Nobody slipped any mushrooms in my chow that night. I'm not used to this kind of stuff. I wanted to know why. I mean, I will be very, very candid with you. I did not hear a voice that said, Michael, it's going to rain. Build a boat. Didn't happen. But I knew I'd been in the presence of God. Why me? I'm nobody special. I'm not a role model. I'm none of that stuff. But Occam's razor, the philosophical notion that the simplest explanation until proven otherwise is probably the best, turned out to be true. I had asked, and I received. It was that easy. This isn't some kind of hallelujah New Testament story where suddenly the gates of prison opened and I walked out. I was inside for over another decade. But I had purpose and I had meaning now in my life. And the Innocence Project started getting a few good responses from the courts. But all of this stuff we were testing some autopsies things, some fingernail scrapings, nothing. One last piece of evidence was a blue bandana. DNA technology has moved along so that they could actually determine what was on there. It was June of 2011. I got the news that the bandana had my wife's DNA on it, and the DNA of a man, not me. But that wasn't a get-out-of-jail-free card because the prosecutors were still fighting. August, a couple months later, on my birthday, I got the name of the guy who belonged to that DNA, or vice versa. And still they fought us. They lost, but in October of the same year, I walked out. I don't think the supreme being of the universe is into numerology, but I walked in on March 4th, 1987, and I walked out on October 4th, 2011. And so that's 24 years and 7 months to the day. So if you want to know, yeah, I was in about 25 years, but I was actually in 24/7. That's the easy way to remember it. Why does any of this matter to you? We want to do stuff that involves prosecutors. We want them to do the right thing. Here's the layman's perspective, because this is the only thing I can offer you. Let's say you're a defense attorney, or you're someone who's been accused of a crime. You're just a citizen. I'm the prosecutor. Let's play poker for money. I'm going to deal. But I get to decide which card you get, and no, you can't have that one. That's not a level playing field. That's not fair. And that goes outside the bounds of Brady versus Maryland. I know we can fix this. Other fields have done it. And the people involved are the ones who make the system work or not work. And I know you can, and I thank you for your attention.